It was the day after graduation when my mom and her boyfriend told me that now that I was an adult, I had to move out and find my own place. Although unexpected, my mom and my relationship changed drastically when her new boyfriend moved in. I tried to make a good impression because I wanted her to be happy, but the guy seemed to have an issue with me. He convinced my mom to start charging me rent because I had a part-time job while still in school, even though he was jobless and living off my mom. He would go into my room, go through my stuff, and use some of my things without my permission. He even broke my laptop after using it without asking. But my mom saw nothing wrong with his behavior and always took his side. She would yell at me whenever I complained about how I didn't like him invading my privacy. He seemed very pleased with himself when my mom kicked me out. I didn't have enough to get a place, so I survived by sleeping on friends' couches as much as I could until they got tired of me. And I sometimes had to sleep outside. Thankfully, I was able to obtain a second job through someone I knew, and I was able to save up. I moved into a new place at the beginning of this month, after months of not having anywhere to call home. A few days ago, my mom's boyfriend reached out to me. Apparently, my mom had a stroke, and he tried guilting me into moving back to help her out because he got a job opportunity and had to move. I declined and told him that, unfortunately, I'm too busy trying to be an adult, and it doesn't look like I can take time off that schedule to do that, then hung up. Am I the idiot for not wanting to go back home to take care of my sick mom after she and her boyfriend kicked me out? Edit. I was so focused on surviving that I didn't even think of blocking them. I also had a bit of hope in the beginning that maybe she would change her mind and tell me that I could come back, but she never did. They never contacted me until now. Your mom kicked you out. It's quite hard to get over that. It sucks when your mom gets to reap what she sowed. Clap, clap, clap. It's consequences. Good for you. I'm sure your mom's boyfriend will take care of her though, even though he'd have to bring her with him when he moves for his great new job. You are not the idiot. Exactly. Your mom clarified where your priorities are and where yours should be. Please don't feel guilty now that she's had a stroke. She should have ensured the guy she was banking on was a decent dude before leaving her child out in the cold. That is a sad lesson to teach a young person. Parents are supposed to be more supportive. I wouldn't lift a finger for her. Don't move back. Put bluntly, she's shown she wouldn't do it for you. Don't treat people like family who don't treat you like family. Your mother's boyfriend moved into what he saw as an almost perfect situation. The only issue was you, so he got your mother to get rid of you. Now his perfect situation is blown up by your mother's health, so he's looking to dump her on someone else. Your mother brought this on herself many times over, and now the consequences of her reprehensible actions have caught up with her. Yep, he's just going to move on to his next victim, regardless of OP taking care of her. This dude will straight up disappear and leave her for dead. He's not going to care for OP's mom himself. He has this new job pop up at a convenient time to leave her behind. I can't say she doesn't deserve it. My spouse and I have 2 sons. We discussed changing our wills with some new developments and had some negative feedback from friends. My younger son married his college sweetheart. They have 3 kids with a 4th on the way. His wife's family is extremely poor and has never been able to help financially. We cover quite a bit since there's no help from one side. She also has multiple siblings, and whatever is left in her parents' estate is being split among them all. It'll likely be very little. My older son's wife family is of equal value, if not more, wealth to us, and provides for their daughter without hesitation. As such, we've not given them much help since it was never needed. This daughter-in-law is not only an only child, but the single member of her family in that generation. She's set to inherit from a half-dozen estates as the last living relative. They also don't plan on having children. Our wills, written before either was married, were initially equal splits. With how things have gone, we feel we should leave the majority to our youngest. They'll get next to nothing from his wife's family and have children of their own to support. My older son will inherit more than enough from his wife's side to equal out. We were talking about this with some friends, and they said we should be prepared to cause tension by treating our sons differently. My spouse and I believe our reasoning is sound. We love both, but one needs more support from us. Are we correct or are we being idiots? You are the idiot. LOL. I legitimately thought you would give more to the other son to make up for favoring the son who keeps having kids that he can't afford. But nope, you're just going to continue to favor the irresponsible one. Give the younger son some condoms. It sounds like that's his main need at the moment. Ha, that's the answer. OP, it's your money, but your son will probably resent you for this. His wife is set to inherit, but he's not. So if anything happens to him, he's out in the cold. Is that fair? Your younger son needs more money because they have 4 kids. Kids that, by the sounds of it, they really can't afford. I understand your reasoning, but this is an issue he's causing himself. I second this. If anything should happen to the older son's wife, she dies before her relatives, he'll inherit nothing, while your younger son gets it all. If your older son's marriage ends in divorce, he won't be entitled to her inheritance, and as you left him with nothing, he will not get his own. You're being short-sighted and letting your older son know that you haven't put in the thought for his future. It's an insult for that alone, but the message you're sending your sons is that you only want to support the one with more children than he can afford and requires constant handouts. That's unfair to the one son who has taken nothing from you as an adult. And why the heck are you discussing this with friends? Stop right now. Equal split, and don't discuss it with anyone. Because they know it's wrong, and they were hoping friends would understand. And now that their friends don't side with them, they're hoping random strangers will side with them. Joke's on them because their current plan sucks. I, 31 male, was raised by my sister. Sort of. I lived with my mom until I was 8, at which point my grandmother became ill. My mom had me and my brother 10 stay with my sister, who was 21 at the time, while she went and took care of her mom. She returned 2 years later, but my brother and I stayed with my sister because my mom didn't have a big enough place. She still visited often, but I still lived with my sister when I met my wife when I was 22. I love my mom. She's a fantastic woman, but from an outsider's perspective, she abandoned me, had no hand in raising me, and relied on others to do her job. A part of me can understand where others are coming from, but a bigger part of me sees why she did what she did. However, my wife is the opposite. She sees my mom as neglecting her duties as a parent and finds it especially bothersome when my mom comes to visit because my mom will offer advice on raising our kids, which makes my wife angry. She says she needs to stay in her lane, considering she didn't even raise her own kids. I agree that she needs to stay in her own lane, and I have zero problems telling her as much, but saying she didn't have any part in raising her own kids is just foolish. She was still around. We just didn't live with her or go stay the night with her. My wife now had a bad upbringing. She's the oldest out of 6 kids. I'm the youngest of 4. She was made to parent her siblings while her mom worked, and by the time she hit 15, she had to get a job to help with the bills. She held a lot of animosity against her own mother for taking away from her childhood, and this is the reason why she hates my mother. She said what my mother did was worse, because my mother dropped me off on my sister's doorstep and didn't come around at all for 2 years, and then still didn't take me back when she could have. At least her mom making her get a job or having her help raise the kids didn't leave the home. Her mom was always there, so for whatever reason, she thinks what my mom did was worse, even though she still has ill blood with her own mother for what she did. She says that she feels sorry for my sister, who had her young adult life stripped away, and her marriage because of my mom. My sister had just gotten married when my mom had us stay with her, and they ended up divorcing a year later because he never signed up to have kids. Now I have 2 stepkids, and this is where the fight started yesterday. I asked my wife if she could have her mom take the kids for 1 to 2 weeks so we could get a break, because lately the kids have been off the walls, and I could just really use a breather. She said, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. You don't pawn your kids off on someone else when you're a parent. So I told her that we could use a break, not just me, that it would benefit all of us. She says, "Listen, I know that your mother has made you feel like someone else taking your kids for long periods is normal, but it's not normal. And no, I will not be making my mom take my kids, so you don't have to deal with them." So I snapped and told her to shut the heck up about my mother. She said, "Truth hurts, huh? Tell me to shut up one more time, and you'll be out of this house." Am I the idiot for telling her to shut up and stop talking about my mom? Edit. My wife doesn't bring my mom up randomly. She only starts complaining about her when my mom tries to parent the kids, or when I suggest the kids go to her mom's for a bit. However, we just had a baby, and my mom has been super overbearing with parenting tips, so my wife has been losing her crap more often than not. And I do tell my mom to stop. I tell her we're following our own advice, and I appreciate her input, but it's not necessary. So it's not like I don't defend the situation. I don't want the baby to go to her mom's, just the older two kids so we can catch a breather. My wife has been in therapy twice a week since I met her, and has since gained a kick-butt relationship with her mom, while still recognizing that what her mom did was messed up. She says that my inability to see what my mom did as messed up is significantly affecting the man I am today, because I make excuses for my mom's bad behavior, like her trying to push us to use the cry it out method because she feels like our baby is manipulating us. As I've said, I shut my mom down. I acknowledge her advice and then tell her, "Thanks, but we don't believe in that." I don't know what else my wife expects me to do because I'm handling it, but she thinks I need to go to therapy so I can take the wool off my eyes and stop putting Mommy Dearest on a pedestal. She says my sister, whom I don't get along with, deserves the praise and respect, not my mother. But regardless, I love my mom, and I think she's a kick-butt woman, and I don't feel she deserves the BS that my wife has against her. Dude, I walked into church the other day with my 4 teenagers in tow. Some dads decided to give me parenting advice. One of his kids is in rehab for the 4th time, and the other's having her second baby at 19. I promptly told him to go screw himself. That's how your wife feels when your mom gives parenting advice. You are the idiot. Your wife needs to shut up. She's complaining. The ones complaining are your mom and you. You and your wife are raising the kids. Your mom needs to stop complaining. And if you didn't want to have kids, you shouldn't have them. But to have 3 kids and then want to drop them off somewhere for 2 weeks because you need a break? That's weird. Other people are responsible for your kids for about a weekend, so that's the break you could get. Yes, Mommy's little soldier, you are the idiot. You seem desperate for Mom's approval, yet you don't want it to look that way. OP, you admit your mother constantly crosses boundaries set by both you and your wife by giving multiple pieces of advice no one wants to hear from a woman who never was Mother of the Year. Yet you yell at your stressed, exhausted, postpartum wife to shut the heck up about her? Seriously? You are the idiot. Big time. Live in denial if you want to, but your wife sees your sister's perspective on your childhood and realizes better than you how exactly much harm your mother caused you and your siblings. And this outrageous woman dares to even give more than one advice about raising kids? After being told multiple times to keep them to herself? Wow. Just wow. Let's also keep in mind that the wife has already raised 2 kids, and yet the mother-in-law seems to need to give advice? Awful. Oh, and keep in mind, the woman who actually raised OP and siblings, their sister, also sided with OP's wife. This dude has absolutely no basis for his complaints. This happened to my female 26, husband's sister, 31. She got married last week. Please don't think of this as bragging. I've always been considered physically pretty. People have always told me that. It has its perks and its cons. I had a hard time because of this when I was at school, because let's say that I was the stereotypical cheerleader. My point with this is that other people often only paid attention to me because of my appearance, or thought everything I did was against them. This was a big issue amongst girls, which might have something to do with this as well. So on to the conflict. My husband and I got invited to the wedding at a very fancy location. It was truly a very beautiful wedding, so I decided to dress up a little bit. I had a baby 3 months ago. I wore a dress with cleavage. When she and her husband were busy catching up with friends, some family members came and complimented my outfit with the always so necessary comment about how good I look because I've lost most of my baby weight. You know how much people like to talk about that. Then the other incident was because we didn't bring our baby with us to the wedding. One of my friends was babysitting for us since she lives nearby. He only breastfeeds, so she had to drive him twice so I could feed him. The first time was when they were giving speeches, so I went to the car, breastfed him, and she left. Then the second time, some people wanted to see the baby, so as we were outside because of the music, some of our family came to greet my baby. My other sister-in-law posted photos of the wedding. She posted one of me and her, which said, "with the prettiest doll," because she calls me Barbie sometimes. My sister-in-law thought that was very nasty. She posted on Instagram saying that no matter what, some people always want to shine brighter than others and steal the spotlight, even on special occasions. I saw that, and I sent her a text like, "Hey, is everything okay?" She didn't answer that day, but the next, saying that I couldn't possibly be this tone deaf and that the post was about me. I was like, what? And she said that because people were posting and talking about how pretty I looked at our wedding, how good I look, how lucky my husband is, how pretty my baby is. You get the idea. I told her, sorry, but I don't see how that has anything to do with me. She said that I was doing this on purpose, and to back up her argument, she said that in the photo I posted, people were commenting on that kind of stuff. She insists that I wanted to outshine her by basically looking prettier and having people coo at my baby. So I think this just might be that female competition because I've seen it other times. It wouldn't be weird to me if she thought that my dressing up or losing weight was something I'd done to purposely harm her, because it has happened to me before. But I don't want to be too harsh, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt because maybe I was wrong. Not the idiot. I will never understand why women are so competitive and get upset with people for not being 100% attentive to the bride on her wedding day. Your baby never came into the wedding or reception. You went outside to deal with it. If you went outside and someone saw the baby, okay. If there's a lull in the reception, people were allowed to go outside. I've been to receptions where people went out to smoke or check out the grounds, etc. It's not like everyone stayed in one place all day. And being mad because people saw a baby? This is so ridiculous. People socialize at weddings, catching up with friends and relatives. There are reunions. No one spends the entire night sitting and staring at the bride and groom. Your sister-in-law obviously has insecurities. OP, it sounds like it's easier to be angry at you than the people who put value on looks and weight. You didn't decide to be pretty. Your weight is nobody's business, but it's easier to make you the villain than to be angry at everyone else. I'm sorry I'm so pretty. It's such a burden. Oh, sometimes I wish I looked like all the plain people. Like you. Your life must be so simple. Lady, you are the idiot. I mean, I just don't believe that people went out of their way to say how gorgeous you were at the wedding after the fact. You're just kind of into yourself. Don't forget how quickly I lost my baby weight, too. I also feel like OP's omitting some background here to explain the upset, especially as sister-in-law called her tone deaf. Every bride deserves to feel like the most beautiful, important woman on their wedding day, and whether it was meant to or not, the attire of choice took that from her.